Welcome back, everyone. I'm Bob or Dog Q Bones, and we have another installment at Improving at MTG. Today, because we know we want to keep it fresh, we have a new deck, Jund Citadel, and a new player, Gabe, another member of the Discord, another constant mythic player. He's showing me a match from his qualifier run. So I'm going to do something a little bit different today in the sense of I know the past four videos were on the longer side. They were all 30 plus minutes, I believe, and I know not everyone has time to watch those. So I'm going to try to mix and match, have some videos be shorter, and I'm only going to go over the first game because I think that's where the crux of the decisions were. And there's an insane decision at the end that I'm even going to leave pause for a bit, see if you guys can work it out. It's such an insane puzzle, and I can't wait to get to that part because it was so cool to actually see it unfold. Without further ado, let's get into it. So as I said, this is Jund Citadel. They are facing Celestia Humans. Pretty popular deck right now. And let's see how it goes. Gabe's on the play. Always like to be on the play no matter what. This obviously is a very fine hand. You have your lands. You have stuff to do. You can't, unfortunately, cast Llanowar Elves on one. But what are you going to do, right? Gabe, unlike Tom, actually has lands you can look at. That's really nice. First good play of today. All right, so another land, not ideal. And here already, small mistake I want to point out. Seems to be a common theme among a lot of great players. So, this is the third constant mythic player we have, and the third player to show this type of mistake. You're revealing information before combat that's not relevant to combat. So because you're deploying a priest pre-combat, the opponent may know now, like, okay, maybe I do want to block because my Esper Sentinel is not long for this world, right? And if I block, that might prevent them from, using priest on the subsequent turn or 2 turns later or something like that. In reality, they're probably not going to block regardless, but why give them the choice? Because you really want to limit the amount of decisions your opponent has, like in cases like these, because you might think that, oh, there's no way they're going to take the block here. But maybe with their hands, it like makes perfect sense. Maybe they have a lot of Skyclave apparitions, or maybe they have a lot of Brutal Cathar, and if they take you off enough creatures, you could just never activate the priest. So don't give them the information. As I say in a lot of my videos, it's a small mistake that generally won't matter until it does. So you gotta be careful about that. But he makes the attack. Opponent tanks. So again, say this wasn't like a very clear-cut decision on their part, but they end up taking it. Okay, another plains. Right now, even without seeing the green, we can infer that they are in fact Celestia, because Mono White plays the snow-covered lands to play Faceless Haven. So they have the classic triple 1-drop start. Not bad, not amazing against Citadel specifically, but pretty solid, especially if they follow up with a Lieutenant. Okay, so this is already a really interesting line. So you're definitely going to play. Well, you actually have a few lines here. Sorry, let's not say for sure. You have the Llanowar Elf line, and that will allow you to use the Priest. Or you could simply use Phyrexian Tower, sacrifice the Shambling Ghast, and cast a Yawgmoth. Or the third line, I guess. It's really an extension of the first. But play Llanowar Elves, play like a tap land and pass. You're not forced to use Priest here, but you could probably infer by the way I'm saying that you probably should just use Priest here. So then we have to think about the other two lines, right? We can use Phyrexian Tower, sacrifice Shambling Ghast, ping one of the X1s, or even make a treasure if you really want. Get Yawgmoth down. Yawgmoth is obviously pretty sick against humans. If they don't play Skyclave Apparition main, they actually have no answers to it. Conversely, we could do a similar line, except play Llanowar Elf and give them both up so we can activate Priest. So what's better here? Personally, I think it's pretty obvious that you want to go Llanowar Elves, activate Priest, ping something off. and then just play a Yawgmoth. I don't really see why you wouldn't just get the free card. Llanowar Elves is only getting worse and worse at this juncture. It's just it does help you ramp, but you're going to hit land 4 so you can cast your Cocos. It's only better to keep Llanowar Elves around specifically if you draw like a Citadel the very next turn, which you do play 4 of them. I guess if you draw Corval too, you're kind of in a similar spot where maybe having the Elves might be better. But Yawgmoth is just so powerful against them that deploying it definitely feels right. And I feel like just limiting their board so you can't go get blown out by a Thalia's Lieutenant as badly anyway just seems prudent in this juncture. So Gabe agrees with me. Going after the Esper Sentinel, that seems perfectly fine. And they end up sacrificing the Dauntless Bodyguard. Okay, so we actually did have a very small decision there on whether or not we want to play the Prosperous Innkeeper over the Yawgmoth. However, I don't think it's a very difficult decision. You have 4 mana. You should probably just play the card that's insane against humans, right? Unfortunately, they are playing an iteration that does have Skycleave Apparitions main. Not every version of Green White Humans does play Apps main, but pretty unlucky. And now Gabe has the decision to sacrifice Priest of Forgotten Gods to kill the Esper Sentinel. But I kind of agree that when you have a Prosperous Innkeeper in hand, it's probably better just to keep the Priest around. Because you're giving up your whole board to kill an Esper Sentinel where you can just keep Priest. So, Collect a Company was a pretty nice draw, but also leads you into an awkward decision this turn. Are we going to cast Collect a Company on our main phase, let them draw a card? Cast it on their turn, let them draw a card? Play Prosperous Innkeeper, pass, or you can even hypothetically play Tower, sacrifice Priest of Forgotten Gods, and then play Coco and also pay the 1. But I think we can eliminate that. We don't want to give up a resource, so to deny them a resource as well, since Priest is just so powerful in the humans matchup. So I think this is actually a very, very difficult decision, because it's like, what are we looking for here exactly? So in my mind, the cards that we're looking for predominantly at this point are the big 2. Your Woe Strider, your Mayhem Devil. Both of those are just pretty nuts, right? And I think casting a Collected Company here is just significantly better than running out of Prosperous Innkeeper. Like, that's fine and all, but like, what is that really accomplishing? If you are trying to Coco into a Mayhem Devil Woe Strider, you can always just play the Prosperous next turn, and then you still have sacrifice fodder for Priest, because realistically, that's what Prosperous Innkeeper is going to do. If you wait on the Collected Company, they could play Thalia, they could play another Sentinel, they could play an Elite Spellbinder. There are ways they have to interact with that. They can't stop it necessarily, but if you're afraid of just giving them a card, if they have any reasonable follow-up, I think that's just going to happen regardless. I think playing the Innkeeper here is only better if you know their hand is just nothing, because then you're just getting some free life. But I think it's a pretty clear company here, personally. However, if I remember correctly, Gabe decides to play the Tower, tanks a little bit, and then ends up playing the Prosperous Innkeeper. So, a very quick note on that. I think that Gabe, like, a few of the other videos, fell victim to not utilizing think, play. So he played the Tower with the expectation that I want a company, but then he changed his mind. It's like, you know what? I just want to play the Innkeeper. But if you thought that through completely, he would have came to the conclusion, oh, you know what? I just want to play Innkeeper this turn for whatever reason. I don't know his logic. I don't agree, but, I don't think it's completely unreasonable either, right? And, just play a tap land for turn. So next turn, I can collect a company. If they don't buff the Esper Sentinel, I can deny them a card as well. Okay, that seems pretty reasonable to me. However, now if he wants to deny the card next turn, assuming Esper Sentinel doesn't get buffed in any capacity, or Thalia or Spellbinder or whatever, now he has to shock himself too. So it's kind of just the worst of both worlds. Like, you can argue, I guess, that, oh, well, if you sacrifice the Prosperous Innkeeper to the Tower, use the treasure and your land, you can Coco anyway. but you're not going to do that because you just gave up both halves of your innkeeper to cast the Coco anyway. That's horribly inefficient, right? So I really don't love Gabe's line here. I think I would have probably just cast Coco on their turn because I don't think we're using Priest now necessarily. Maybe we would have if we hit exactly Mayhem Devil Woe Starter, because then we can ping off Esper Sentinel, hit him for 1, get kill the apparition, and that would be pretty nasty. So maybe that's just good enough because you could wipe their board if you hit Devil. But just like ambushing them in combat seems pretty good too, and limiting their options. Because if you just hold open 4 mana, they're gonna be really scared to attack, and they're going to draw the card regardless. So I think it's fine. And if you wait till combat, they're likely can't attack you. Then you can just play Innkeeper next turn, and then you have a better sacrifice fodder, yada, yada, yada. But because we don't have company open, well, we still technically do. They just get a free attack, and they're still drawing the card anyway. And I feel like we just, limited our decisions for a turn. Because they had a pretty strong follow-up of Lieutenant and to Luminarch. They made their Sentinel huge. So what are you going to do at this point, right? So interestingly enough, so Gabe actually goes for the double block here, which I guess seems reasonable because you do get your 4/4 back. So it's kind of like a weird speculative back and forth where I don't think they should have attacked with their Skyclave Apparition. I'm even now not positive if Gabe should have gone for the double block there. Because do you want to trade your Priest for a 2/2 and get a 4/4? I guess that's pretty good. Like, if I was in his seat, I probably would take that too. Priest is just so powerful that losing it feels bad, but we still do have a treasure. We still have a tower, so if we do get a Mayhem Devil off of a company, we still have ways to utilize sacrificing. So in that vein, I think this double block is fine. I don't love it still, but it probably is the best line. But to add to the suspicions, that's weird. It's weird to say. To add to that, they actually order the Prosperous Innkeeper first, which again, very strange. I'm very surprised they're not thinking of Priest here. They don't think that's a threat to them anymore. So that's really weird. So funny enough, if we Coco'd, our turn, their turn, we would have hit a Devil for sure. And I think we would have more or less massacred them right now. It's hard to say what else he would have hit, but we know we had at least Devil, and we could presume he would have hit something else. Then you just play Prosperous Innkeeper, and then you probably just massacre their board. You're at least killing 2 things, if not 3, depending on what you hit and how you hit. But now we're in a bit of a nasty spot. This is scary. Their board is getting really wide. We're almost up to the super, super sweet turn. So I'm excited to go through that. So they just keep growing their Sentinel. Seems very reasonable from their side. And they attack with both. So this is rough, right? What do? I think very intelligently, he goes for the Coco. Now you got to get your information before making that type of decision, right? A pretty bad hit. So funny enough, let's see. So, no. So he drew Mayhem Devil for turn. If he Coco'd, it would have been Devil, Goose, 4 lands. So we know for sure he would have hit Devil and Goose specifically. So yeah, if he decided to go for Coco, go Devil, Goose, he actually would have drawn another Prosperous Innkeeper. Then he could just go double Innkeeper and just go nuts on them. Probably would have wiped their board and won the game just like that. Maybe not that simple, but he would have been in a pretty nice spot. And I think what seems to be a really small play, a small decision, huge implications. Because as we're seeing, Coco, hit Devil, Goose, untap, get Prosperous Innkeeper, right? So we can actually go back a little bit before they started their turn. Hold on, sorry. Let's do a little reverse because now we have the information, right? So this is their board, and we would have drawn the Prosperous Innkeeper, and we still had the other Prosperous Innkeeper in hands, right? So, let's just walk through what would have happened. So they wouldn't have attacked Almost certainly. So we could just presumably not have the 4/4. So we can assume that their board's untapped. They have the 3/3, the Skyclave, the 2/2 to 1/1. We have a Priest, a Mayhem Devil, a Gilded Goose, double Innkeeper in hand. We play both Innkeepers. Then let's see. So we'd have a food and a treasure. We crack the food, hit the aspirant, crack like both treasures just for, just to get the pings, kill Skyclave, get your 4/4 back, sacrifice both Innkeepers, kill the Lieutenant, sacrifice Sugar, kill Esper Sentinel. Game, set, match if he just did the Coco instead. However, now we're rewinding ahead again. Now he's actually in a pretty awkward spot just because of that one small decision. That's how much these small decisions matters. Well, people are messaging me. I'm popular. Oh, it's Chris. What's up, Chris? Enough out of you. But this is brutal, right? I didn't want to miss it, but that's okay. Not the end of the world. So now we have a decision on whether or not we want to chump block at this juncture. And I agree. We don't want to chump block. We have a devil in hands. We're going to need that devil to have any chance of winning this game now. So here is the turn I was talking about. We draw a Citadel for turn. We're at 5 life. How do we navigate this game to a point that we can actually win? This is really difficult. And again, this didn't even have to happen because this all stems from a decision that Gabe made that seems small 2 turns prior of not playing the Collected Company and going for Prosperous Innkeeper instead. So what I recommend doing, pause the video. Well, not now. You're going to pause the video, time yourself 30 seconds to a minute, or even like a minute and a half, because that's how much time you'd have if you're sitting in Gabe's seat, and figure out what would your line be. I'll give you a few seconds to pause now, and then I'll talk about mine. Okay, so what I was thinking is that we need to navigate the game to a point where the Priest trigger can kill one of the large creatures. That seemed very important. So the only way we can accomplish that is with the Mayhem Devil. So we cast Mayhem Devil. We activate Gilded Goose, eat the food, ping the Thalia's Lieutenant. We have 1 mana floating. Activate the Phyrexian Tower, eat the Goose, 2 mana floating. And we ping Luminarch Aspirant. Activate Priest of Forgotten Gods, sacrificing the 4/4 and the 1/1. Ping Luminarch. Oh, and ping Luminarch, ping Thraben Inspector. Before the trigger resolves, we need to crack both treasures to finish off the Thraben Inspector. Then one of their 5/5s would die. Hard to say which one they would choose. We have 8 mana at that point. Then we cast Bolas' Citadel and try to find a way to, really just a way out of this game. Maybe we, hint to like a Woe Strider or something and we can block. That would be the ideal, right? However, Gabe has a different line. So similar in concept, but I think his line was actually leagues better than mine, and I did not see it at all. So I really love how he navigated this spot for the most part. He goes for the devil. They crack Clue in response, of course, but he just passes. So what he was thinking was that, okay, the way I get out of this game is that I need to block. I need to soak up a bunch of damage. I need to eat food. And then I need to cast Citadel, which I thought was an extremely smart play. I didn't see it in my seat. So our lines end up being pretty similar, except he just has a lot more life to work with at the end of the day. So I thought it was pretty brilliant. So the opponent goes for, if I remember correctly, a Brutal Cathar. So something you need to know about Brutal Cathar is that if you kill it before the trigger resolves, it's as if the trigger never actually happened, because they're going after the 4/4, something that we really need at this point, right? So Gabe decides to sacrifice both treasures to kill the Cathar immediately. and then uses 2 mana to eat the food to kill the Thales Lieutenant to take an attacker off the board. So really, really nice execution so far. There he goes. Then the triggers resolve. The Brutal Cathar trigger fizzles. Luminarch, presumably going on the Esper Sentinel to diversify the damage as much as possible. And then they go in for the attack. So what does Gabe do here, right? How does he block? We definitely have to trump bare minimum one of them. However, considering we already have Priest and we're going to use it this turn, that affords Gabe a double chump block Priest activation. So what he ends up doing is that he goes for the chump block, correctly putting the 4/4 underneath. However, I believe that at this point he should put the Gilded Goose underneath, because if we're going for a Citadel win, Prosperous Innkeeper is really, really good at fueling your Citadel. But he actually waffles between the two and ends up going with the Innkeeper, which I do disagree with. I thought this was masterfully executed overall, but I think that's definitely a slight hiccup, and it's not remembering, like, all right, how we're actually winning this game, right? But he gets to get rid of most of the board. He does get to keep the goose. He does make a food, but you could have made a food anyway. There was no real reason to keep the goose around to do that. And another interesting thing that Gabe does is that he had a Mana Floating and a tower, and he doesn't actually eat the food. I definitely would have eaten the food there, because when are you going to eat the food otherwise, right? You're presumably casting Citadel next turn. Why be at 9 life when you could be at 12? So I think he had the best possible line, but then got a little muddled on why it was the best line. So there was a few small missteps there, which again could very much hurt him, which is really unfortunate. However, fortunately for Gabe, he draws the second Mayhem Devil. And because he went with his line, he actually had an avenue to win. So right now, I'll skip the suspense. He has way over lethal. But if he ate the food, I was actually concerned that maybe he wouldn't have had lethal. So I was wondering if that worked out. But it actually would have worked out functionally the same if we did my line the exact way we did it. So my two differences, remember, where I would have put the goose underneath instead of the Prosperous Innkeeper, and I would have eaten the food immediately. So if we did it that way, we would have eaten the food, pinged them, they'd be at 11. We go to combat, attack them down to 8. Then you can sacrifice, so they're at 8. You sacrifice your Prosperous Innkeeper to the Phyrexian Tower. That's 2 more pings, put him to 6. Activate Priest of Forgotten God, sacrifice both your Mayhem Devils, that's 4 triggers. Putting that down to 2, Priest resolves, they go to 0. So it would have worked out pretty much the same way if we ate the food, and it would have played around more. Because, again, if we didn't draw the Mayhem Devil this turn, we definitely would have gone for Bolas' Citadel, and we'd much rather be at 12 life than 9, and we'd much rather have the Innkeeper out than the Goose, who's really just not doing that much at this point. But, Gabe's really heads up line worked so beautifully, where I don't believe mine would have worked as effectively, because I was playing with a Citadel when I was at 6 life. And, they would have a pretty small board, but they would have had the Brutal Cathar taking out the Mayhem Devil, and if I whiffed on the Citadel, I would have died. So I really, really love how he navigated this game overall. Again, the Collected Company versus Prosperous Innkeeper line was what got us to this point. But with some really, really tight plays and a little ingenuity, he pulled himself out of this hole. This is how you play after making a mistake. So it's a really, really nice game to watch. A lot to learn here. I thought that was just such a cool line. And never even occurred to me that we're supposed to pass. So really great stuff from Gabe. So, as I said before, he has over lethal, no problem. And to end this video, I'm just going to quickly go over his sideboarding, because I actually think he makes a small misstep here. So the Jund Citadel versus humans matchup. This isn't like food where you're completely the control deck. We have some removal, but obviously the dynamics aren't the same because we're more trying to do our own game plan versus just interacting with theirs. Like Jund Food can more just worry about messing humans up and then just like slamming a Corvold. We kind of have that deal, but not to the same degree. So Gabe correctly brings in the Fatal Pushes and Grasps, but what he actually does, he boards out both Corvolds and a Bolas the Citadel, if I'm remembering correctly. Sorry, he really takes his time, which is good. You should in boarding. Most people do it too quickly. So I like him taking his time. Oh, skipped over it. Yes, so he ends up boarding out 1 Citadel, 2 Corvold. I like the board ins. I don't love the board outs. Bolas the Citadel, you never want to go below 1 in any matchup, really. Maybe against Burn, you don't want any. So you definitely want some amount, but I think Corvold's just a lot better here. It seems unlikely they're going to keep in Giant Killer, and if they are, maybe as a one-of. So Corvold is still going to be really high impact at this point. Where Citadel is just such a risk if they have, a good start. If you're low, as we saw from the last game, Citadel can be really tenuous. So what I would have done, I would have boarded out 2 Citadels, and I would have boarded out one of the lower drops. Probably like a Gilded Goose or something, because Goose is good, but you never really need multiples. But regardless, that's all I have for today. I want to thank Gabe for sending me this video. I thought it was super sweet to watch. Thank you guys for watching so much. I'm hoping you're learning a lot and you're liking this type of content because it's one of my favorite pieces of content. If you like this video, please consider giving it a like. Please consider subscribing. It's going to help boost our channel so we can get this out to more people. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope you have a great day.